Hello all, a very good afternoon. This is Anand Kumar, and let us look into the continuation from the previous class. That is, in the previous class, we have just started with the term called interprocess communication, and in this class, that is video lecture series number 1, and we'll just start and look into the interior concepts of interprocess communication. It is interprocess communication, which is shortly known as IPC. It's a process, a process need to communicate with each other in many situations. For examples, to count occurrences of a word in a text file, output of a grep command needs to be given to a WC command, something like grep -o-i within braces words and file slash WC/I. Interprocess communication or IPC is a mechanism that allows processes to communicate, and it helps processes synchronize their activities, share information, and avoid conflicts while accessing shared resources. So, coming to the types of processes, let us first talk about types of processes. First one is independent process. An independent process is not affected by the execution of other processes. Independent process or processes that do not share any data or resources with each other or other processes. No inter-process communication is required here. But coming to the next process, that is what we call it as cooperating process. It interacts with each other and shares the data or resources. A cooperating process can be affected by other executing processes, and in inter-process communication, that is what we shortly called as I've been calling as IPC, is a mechanism that allows processes to communicate with each other and synchronize their actions. The communication between these processes can be seen as a method of cooperation between them. Inter-process communication, that is what we call as IPC, allows different programs or processes running on a computer to share information with each other. IPC allows processes to communicate by using different techniques such as or like sharing memory, sending messages, or using the files. It ensures that processes can work together without transferring with each other. And cooperating processes require an inter-process communication mechanism that will allow them to exchange data and of course the information. There are two fundamental models for inter-process communication, and that we are going to see in detail. One is shared memory and another one is message passing. The figure below shows a basic structure of communication between processes via the shared memory and via the message passing method. So, coming detail into the explanation of this slide, that is what we call it as, we have a shared memory and a message passing status. In coming to the figure in the left side, that is what we call as sharing the memory. Process A shares a memory with process B with a shared memory space where it is residing in a kernel layer. Meanwhile, process A and process B is communicating through the kernel layer directly with a source called message. That is what we call as message passing. I mean to say, process A is communicating with process B with the help of a kernel layer through a message passing. This is what we are seeing here in this detail. So the next is, an operating system can implement both methods of communication. First, we will discuss the shared memory methods of communication and then message passing. Communication between processes using shared memory requires process or processes to share some variable, and it completely depends on how the programmer will implement it. One way of communication using the shared memory can be imagined like this. One is, suppose process 1 and process 2 are executing simultaneously and they share some resources or use some information from another process. Process 1 generates information about certain computations or resources being used and keeps it as a record in shared memory. When process 2 needs to use this shared information, it will check in the record stored in the shared memory and takes the notes or take note of the information generated by process 1, and it acts accordingly. So process can be used or can use the shared memory for extracting information as a record from another process as well as for delivering the specific information to other processes. So, coming to the methods in interprocess communication, we'll see this the continuation in the next class. Thank you for listening. Thank you.